Over the years, our family's had a share of health problems.
So prescriptions are a part of our life.
Before we went to the big box store.
We both thought it would help us save. But with the long lines and impersonal service, filling prescriptions became a chore. That's when a friend recommended D&H.
Now Tristan knows our prescriptions. Brenda always helps us find the right vitamins. And after Dad's fall, Monica's been a real expert with all our home medical needs. All without the lines.
Trust and service.
That's our D&H.
Good morning and welcome to Radio Friends. This is Wednesday, it's October the 5th, and we've got one topic today, and that is human trafficking. We have talked about this before on the program, and it's really a tough subject because it's difficult to believe that we in central Missouri have human trafficking. But we've got a couple of ladies with us from Central Missouri Stop Human Trafficking Coalition, who said we do. Nanette Ward and Deb Hume, pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for having us.
As I said, we've talked about this in the past, but we have human trafficking right here, the middle part of the country, the middle part of our state of Missouri.
It's the second largest criminal industry in the United States.
Human trafficking is the second largest criminal industry.
It's second to drug trafficking.
How big of a problem or how big of a criminal industry is it here in central Missouri?
I think the best way to answer, because there are so many victims, we don't know how many, but we know that there are cases that have come out of central Missouri that give a very real example. And when you talk about exploitation of a minor or any human being, that's one too many, for our community. Give me some examples, either Deb or Nanette.
I can give some numbers, and then I'll let Nanette give some specific examples. We're part of the Western District, Judicial District of Missouri, and since 2006, they've prosecuted more cases of human trafficking than any other judicial district in the United States. That doesn't mean it's happening more here than in Atlanta or Houston.
It just means that they've been
prosecuting. They've been on the ball. They've been investigating, but they are identifying it, and they've provided services to 126 people who've been victimized by human trafficking in just the western part of our state. So.
Nanette, can you give us examples?
Well, there was an individual, a woman, who was kept in a cage in someone's basement.
Kept in what?
Her basement, in a cage in the basement.
Kept in a cage?
Yes, for
in the
several
basement?
years. And was Lebanon, I want to say Lebanon, Missouri. So,
how was this discovered?
The woman, she was being shocked with
given electric shocks.
Electric shots, and she was taken to the hospital, and they were suspect, and that's eventually she was able to be taken out of the situation. But she was in that living condition, if you could call it a living condition, for several years, and exploited, sold, on the internet. And so there was sexual exploitation of this young woman for several years by a resident.
This is hard to believe that this happened right here.
And I want to mention there's, to remember the users. I mean, it wouldn't have been lucrative had there not been people who are buying the services. So we have to remember that. We think, oh, how could somebody do this? But we have to remember we're also among the buyers. We don't really know. It can be done so secretively on the internet, and to realize that we have a culture that does kind of create an environment that's easy to objectify women, and so that sort of lends itself even more to making it acceptable for people to purchase what's really sexually exploitive.
So how do you go on the lookout for something like this? Listeners this morning or somebody watching us, how do they know if they're seeing something that is not right, and what can they do about it?
Yeah, and there's different ways to approach this, but for me personally, when people say, well, do you think it could, I always say yes. That I think the first thing is to accept and to approach the whole issue, understanding that there are people in modern day mid-Missouri who are being exploited and are being trafficked as human beings.
So what do you do? How do you call the police? Do you call the sheriff's department? Do you tell a friend? How do you help this person?
Definitely calling the police is one way, especially if someone's in immediate danger, call 911. There is, however, different levels at which the police are aware of human trafficking. I mean, some officers have been trained, some communities have had training, others have not, and so...
Are they going to take you seriously if you call and say, I think I have seen something, or I suspect that something is going on here?
I believe they would.
Yeah.
I believe they would. There is a national hotline number that people can call, however, and they would then direct the call to the appropriate person.
What's the national hotline number?
1-888-373-7888.
And they have a network of all the local agencies, and so they're familiar with the law enforcement and the coalition here in mid-Missouri. So if you call this, you call that number, then they will connect folks who are calling from this area.
We're almost out of time, and I want to plug you have a meeting tonight. But what are some of the glaring warning signs that you look out for?
People being transported together to work sites and taken back. For example, a van load of young women taken to a dance club. They work there, and then they're loaded back up into the van. So maybe they're not allowed to move freely on their own, come and go to work as they please.
And that could be legitimate also.
Right.
Almost everything we're going to say could be legitimate also.
Okay.
Or it could be somebody who's working in a home, just maybe domestic servant, but you see them very rarely leave the home. That can be another way, or else maybe working outside at odd hours. So they're somebody who's really not working what would seem to be normal working hours.
Okay. So if you suspect something, probably the best thing to do would be call that toll-free number.
Yes.
That you gave us.
Yes, and you don't have to feel certain. If something doesn't feel right, trust your gut. And absolutely could be legitimate, but also we know that in many cases that don't look legitimate, that's where people are being trafficked.
Okay, you are having a meeting tonight, Wednesday, October the 5th.
The coalition meets the first Wednesday of every month, and the community public are welcome to be part of this effort.
Where is it?
At Parkade Center on Business Loop, and it's a lower level conference room.
Okay. So if
5:45 p.m.
If you're interested, you can go tonight, 5:45 p.m. at the lower level conference room, Parkade Plaza.
Yes, and our website is www.stophumantraffickingmo.com.
All right. Nanette, Deb, thank you so much for coming by. Our show directed by Travis McMillan, Reynolds Journalism Institute. Audio is Kyle Felling. Our floor director, Austin Fack, and our assistant producer and guest coordinator, Uncle James Mauser. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.